Well, last week, the AP ran a story about American contractors in Gaza shooting at Palestinian civilians trying to collect food. They released footage that supported the claim where we can hear contractors cheering after shooting people. Well, the contractor firm UG Solutions clapped back, claiming the AP didn't do its due diligence, that they're not that horrific. And they then released longer footage, which they felt exonerated them. Well, Max Blumenthal and Wyatt Reed from the Grayzone feel differently and actually examined the new footage only to discover it does the opposite. And they wrote about it in their latest piece titled, New Footage Exposes Ragtag U.S. Mercenaries Firing Toward Gaza Aid Seekers. Max joins us in a moment to explain why this footage isn't exonerating at all. But first, let's play a little bit of it so you can see what they released.
I think I'm going to write down some key Arabic words. Tomorrow, back, go home, stop.
A couple of them speak English were pretty helpful.
They were,
It was like, tell them that we're gonna, the sooner you leave, that we can go get more food.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, there were a couple that's like you said, spoke decent English that actually were helpful. I mean, I think for the most part, they don't have any malintent. They're just desperate.
They're desperate as fuck.
Well, Max Blumenthal joins us now. Max is an award-winning journalist, author, and the editor of The Grayzone, an independent news site focused on U.S. foreign policy, media manipulation, and war. He's reported from Palestine, Syria, Venezuela, and beyond, and is known for challenging official narratives and exposing hidden truths the mainstream media won't touch. He's the author of several books, including Goliath, Life and Loathing in Greater Israel, and The Management of Savagery. Max, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the show.
Good to be here.
Okay, so US Solutions, UG Solutions, sorry, they think that this video exonerates them and that everything's cool and the AP investigation was a big sham. You say, no, actually, this video further implicates them. You wrote about this in your latest piece, New Footage Exposes Ragtag U.S. Mercenaries Firing Toward Gaza Aid Seekers. Tell us why they think it exonerates them, but why you say, no, actually, this implicates you.
Well, UG Solutions is one of the two mercenary firms that operates under the banner of the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, which many have come to start calling the Gaza Holocaust Foundation, because their disastrous aid compounds located across the Gaza Strip are basically drawing people into firing ranges. And something like 700 people have been killed trying to get aid at these dystopian concentration camp-like compounds. And for the first time, some of the footage leaked from an insider, as opposed to Palestinian journalists on the outside who were able to film really chaotic scenes, but an insider, a mercenary from UG Solutions, from a compound in southern Gaza near Rafah, actually outside Khan Yunis, between Khan Yunis and Rafah, and surrounded by destruction. Through the Associated Press, they apparently provided it to the Associated Press, and you can see below a dirt mound some mercenaries firing off rounds on aid seekers. You can't see the aid seekers. One of them says, "I think you got one," and then you hear another one go, "Hell yeah, boy."
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like they're basically hunting Palestinians. These were very short clips. Gaza Humanitarian Foundation threatens to sue the Associated Press. UG Solutions then comes forward with these videos, which no other journalist, although they distributed them, no other journalist reviewed them that I can tell. So at the Grayzone, I and Wyatt Reed gave these videos a very close review. And what UG Solutions said was these provide additional context, which somehow exonerates them. This is the most footage we've seen from any mercenary. They even film themselves on camera, show their identity. So it's the first time we get a clear identity of one of these mercs. You can see they're all American. They're using Israeli rifles, Israeli Tavor rifles. They are completely, they have no idea what they're doing. They're a ragtag band of soldiers for hire thrown into a situation that's pure chaos, where they're guarding an aid distribution hub where there's no food, and starving people who have been deliberately, systematically starved by Israel for months are lining up outside this compound looking for food. and they are desperately calling in the Israeli army, which is, as we know from Palestinians on the ground and Haaretz investigation citing Israeli soldiers, has orders to shoot and kill aid seekers. They're calling them in. At the same time, they're trying to get more of their own people in, and they're panicking and radioing the IDF saying, those are our guys coming in, don't shoot them. And they begin to fire rounds. We don't know where the rounds are, but if you look at the lower left-hand corner of the screen, you can see one mercenary actually pointing his rifle at men who are holding their arms up to show they're not armed, while the other mercenary says these are just desperate people. They come with no, in his words, malintent. But then you hear a series of shots go off. Then you hear one of the mercenaries radio the Israeli army and say, those are our warning shots. That's us, guys. So they're basically admitting that they're firing live rounds, not even like less lethal weaponry. And this is what goes on throughout the day and leads to mass casualties. This is a disastrous operation. I don't know how anyone can look at this and find it exculpatory of UG Solutions or the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. All it does is implicate them in one of the most dystopian, disastrous aid imbroglios in human history.
Why do you think they thought that it exonerated them? I mean, that's what I don't understand. After watching this, I hear what you're saying. I don't understand how they think that this was, oh no, this totally exonerates us. Look, and the AP didn't do their due diligence.
Obviously, they're not very bright, because if you look at the press release that we saw, they misdated everything back to June when this was, and so the dates on their press release are like June 4th. Then they start referring to incidents on June 10th as if they have time traveling powers. So, and there's spelling errors everywhere. There's grammatical errors. There are grammatical errors. They have no, there's very little diligence in what they're doing. And it looks like somebody at the top, someone like former CIA field operative Phil Riley, who finagled these various deals and is the head of Safe Reach Solutions, the other mercenary firm, which is operating under Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, who also inveigled Tony Blair, the scandal-stained former British prime minister, into the operation to build a Gaza Riviera with Boston Consulting Group. This former CIA officer decided, I can make a ton of money here. All I need to do is just get some guys in there who are desperate for work. And they threw untrained soldiers for hire into the Gaza genocide. One of them on camera can be heard commenting that he needs to learn some T words in Arabic, like tomorrow or back or stop. I guess he didn't know that stop and back don't begin with T, but he also hasn't even learned the most basic Arabic terms to be able to verbally tell people to get back. And so the only language they have is their weapons. So this is just buffoonery. It's Keystone Cops. It's candid camera mercenary clown show wrapped in a genocide, with the State Department under Marco Rubio pledging $30 million for this buffoonish operation. Apparently, the Mossad kicked in tens of millions of dollars, according to Israeli opposition figures. The Israeli Defense Ministries put money into. We saw logos of Israeli private firms on some of the sniper pillboxes. So Israeli private contractors are making money off this. And what they're doing is they're supplanting the well-established, highly effective UN aid distribution system, which Israel deliberately undermined, first by killing Hamas police officers guarding the convoys, then by supporting an ISIS-linked Bedouin drug smuggling gang led by someone named Yasser Abu Shabab to lead the aid convoys. This is someone whose main role for the last 21 months has been stealing aid, then selling it on the black market to make money for his smuggling clan. And now he's an official Israeli asset backed by the Trump administration as well. I can't even unpack in the time we have the layers of scandal to this, but this is a criminal operation. run by former US spooks and the Israeli government, as well as an assortment of private contractors. And the Gaza civilians are the prey, and the cash is coming out of our pockets as US
Yeah.
taxpayers.
I still can't wrap my mind around why contractors are allowed to even be there in the first place and why they're allowed to fire live rounds at anybody. I mean, I shouldn't the IDF be the ones who are actually guarding, I suppose, the Gaza humanitarian fund, the Gaza Holocaust fund, or whatever we're calling it. I mean, because it's a sham, right? Um, shouldn't the IDF be the ones guarding them? Like, why is it allowed that US contractors can come in and actually have live weapons? I don't understand this. I mean, I don't know if you
Well,
have the
I
answer
mean,
to that, but I don't understand it.
the Israeli army shouldn't be there at all. They're an illegal, genocidal, occupying force, violating international law. So for a U.S. company to come in, like Gaza Humanitarian Foundation and the Mercenaries, they need to present an American face, and they're the American lipstick on the Israeli kosher pig. They're just there for practically for show. They're just guarding the most immediate perimeter of the aid distribution hubs, but all around them are Israeli tanks, Israeli drones, Israeli soldiers on dirt mounds sniping at people. And they're depending heavily on Israeli muscle with Israeli soldiers who have just systematically dehumanized Palestinians
Yeah.
for years, firing openly and killing hundreds in the course of just about 2 months. This was all predicted at the beginning. I mean, if you go back to my initial commentary when the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation came in, everyone else, including UN leaders, we all said forcing starved Palestinians to walk miles through Israeli army occupied territory, through war zones, and then to descend on some distribution hub to get one box of food when they've been starving will cause chaos and mass death.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what it's done. And the figures behind this are criminals who need to be held accountable. But we're paying for it. I mean, the State Department and Marco Rubio and the Trump administration supposedly got rid of USAID. And I celebrated that because USAID has been used as a regime change weapon to cause so
Hmm.
much instability across the planet without
Right.
delivering life-saving aid. Now this money's being siphoned into a genocidal, quote unquote, humanitarian operation, $30 million. And there's no congressional oversight. Only 18 members of Congress have signed a letter condemning Israel's policy of starving civilians and shooting them at aid hubs.
Hmm.
I mean, that's shocking.
There was a post I saw today on social media where somebody asked the question of, can anybody who's pro-Israel explain to me why Israel is denying baby formula into Gaza? Like, give me an actual, real reason as to why they're denying baby formula, because that's the report, is that baby formula is being held up. They're not allowing it in. And a lot of the people in the comments who were pro-Israel, the only thing they could say was, well, that's a lie. That's not true. Yet it is actually true. Israel is holding up baby formula, and people just don't have an answer for this because the answer is obvious, right? The answer is they're actually trying to starve and kill the Palestinian people. It's the only reason why you'd hold up baby formula. There's no reason for
Yeah,
that.
every Israeli government since 1967 has referred to the Palestinians of Gaza as a demographic threat. So babies are seen as a weapon. They want less babies.
Hmm.
That's why Boston Consulting Group was charged with a plan by the Israeli government through its cutouts in Washington and London with reducing the Palestinian population and paying them to leave. Each family would get like $9,000 to leave, and they would anticipate that 1/4 of the entire population would leave. Israeli Defense Minister today, just like a few hours before we started talking, Israel Katz proposed a new concentration camp like quote unquote humanitarian city in the southern former city of Rafah, which has been totally destroyed. A 3,000-year-old city was totally destroyed by the Israeli military. The plan is to use that concentration camp city as for what they call filtration, to push them into the Sinai desert. The problem is the Egyptian government doesn't want them in there.
Hmm.
So Israel's putting pressure on Egypt through the US. But the objective all along has been to, first of all, keep the population of Gaza out of what is Israel, because this is a population that comes from Israel. Over 85% of them are refugees whose families were forced off their land, mostly in what is now southern Israel.
Mhm.
So Gaza became a warehouse for surplus humanity so Israel could have its ethno-supremacist Jewish state. And now that they got kind of rowdy inside their open air prison and staged too many prison rebellions, October 7th happened, they all have to be pushed out somewhere. Europe, I guess, has to pay the price. The guilt of Europe for the Holocaust has to be paid on the backs of Palestinians, and they'll have to receive hundreds and hundreds of thousands of Palestinians. Already there are like 200,000 in Germany, and we hear racist language from the German government ministers about this group of refugees, which Germany, as the second largest arms supplier to Israel, created, being a kind of demographic threat in Germany. So no one can solve this problem. The problem is Israel being an ethno-supremacist state, and it's leading to ethnic cleansing on a mass scale before our eyes. The kind of things we heard about when we learned in school about the Trail of Tears. And yet no one's doing anything about it. We're just watching them deny baby formula and wondering why. Is it some kind of technical mistake? Maybe it's an oversight. No, this is deliberate policy of demographic engineering.
It's really, I mean, it's, when I read history books as a kid growing up and reading about the Holocaust, I think all of us had the same question, which is how could people have allowed this to happen? How did this happen? How were people, and now I guess we have the answer to that because we're watching it in real time happening with our own friends and family, even who support Israel and say, no, the Palestinians are at fault. And there was a latest poll that came out saying that like 85% of Jewish Israelis believe that there are no innocent Palestinians, that there's no such thing as an innocent Palestinian.
Yeah.
I mean, just how is this? I mean, the mentality of this is, and then there was another report that came out, Sky News, Israeli soldier describes arbitrary killing of civilians in Gaza. So speaking to Sky News, this came out today that an Israeli reservist who served 3 tours of duty in Gaza told Sky News that his unit was often ordered to shoot anyone entering areas soldiers defined as no-go zones. They're arbitrary, invisible no-go zones. They didn't tell the Palestinians you're not allowed to cross this line. And then when a Palestinian, be it a child or an unarmed woman or whoever it was, it didn't matter if they crossed the invisible barrier that they didn't know about, they would be shot dead. And it was really just depending on the commander. Some commanders would say, no, go get them and bring them in. And other commanders would say, shoot them dead. And it was just depending on the commander to commander. And he said that the reason is because they just don't view them as, I mean, they're just all viewed as threats. Every single one of them. Doesn't matter how old they are, if they're armed or not.
Yep. And for Israel, this is existential. So the only way it can survive as a so-called Jewish ethno-state, an ethno-supremacist state, is, in the words of one of its top demographers who helped design the siege of Gaza, Arnon Sofer, to kill and kill and kill all day, every day. This is the only way it can manage the situation until it's completed, until the ethnic cleansing is completed, as the United States did in its own Western territory with its own native population. This is going to be much harder for Israel to accomplish, but Israel represents the hegemonic force in the world, the force of Zionism and the Western so-called rules-based order, which does exactly what the colonial powers in the early 20th century and late 19th century did when they were the hegemonic power. That includes Germany when it was practicing its Holocaust in Namibia, setting up concentration camps there, or the Belgians in the Congo, or the British in India, which was that they would preach superior values to the natives while they were basically committing genocide.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the West does through its rules-based order today. And it's so interesting to see how Jewish Israeli opinion is substantially genocidal, while the opinions of young Jews in the United States goes in the exact opposite direction, along with the rest of Americans. A new Quinnipiac poll shows that opinions of young supporters of the Democratic Party are solidly negative towards Israel, have
Hmm.
surged 25% in the last 8 years in support of Palestine, which is leading to the election of figures like New York City Mayor would be Zoran Mamdani. But our elites and their opinions track so closely to the racist, fascist opinions of Jewish Israelis who are in their Spartan apartheid colony. And so we have a clash in our own societies that will play out today outside the White House when Netanyahu, in the next few minutes, enters to basically tell Donald Trump how the United States must support his next forever war against Iran, against Lebanon, his domination of the region. And the American taxpayer, the American citizen, has no choice in the matter whatsoever, nor does Donald Trump.
Yeah.
So the clash is brewing inside our own societies. And this, I think, will define the future politically of the West.
Yeah, I saw Bernie Sanders putting a post out basically saying today, the Democratic Party needs to shift on Israel because clearly the voting base has shifted on Israel in the Democratic voting base. But I think that the Republican voting base has also shifted, and Republicans are just completely ignoring that. But there are so many vocal people on the right who are completely against Israel. I mean, there is a real battle happening in on the Republican side, and I wonder how that's going to. I wonder how that's going to go. I mean, I don't know which side's going to win on that side. I think on the Democrat side, they're going to have to shift if
I
they want
hate
to
to
win any
say it, but
elections.
it's true among younger Republicans that there's less enthusiasm for these wars. There's less enthusiasm for Israel pushing the United States around, but they don't seem to be a force inside the party. And if you look at the numbers overall, they're just solidly in support of Trump bombing Iran, anything Trump wants to do. The Republican base remains a Trumpist cult.
Mhm.
And until Trump is destroyed, somehow the Trumpist cult, probably from within, um, Trump leaves the scene, we won't really see any relief from this. And so the backlash against the neocon policies that Trump continually embraces, even when he speaks out against them and appears to personally oppose them,
Mhm.
it's playing out mostly among right-wing podcasters, America First podcasters, the kind of like right intelligentsia, which doesn't still have as much influence as Fox News. So I don't really foresee Trump facing that much pressure as much as I want from his base as Joe Biden did. The Democratic Party for now remains the arena of contestation on the question of Israel-Palestine, but you can see the enthusiasm has just died off within the Republican Party. So like 80% of Republicans supported Trump's strike on Iran, but only about 20% of Republicans under 45, according to a YouGov poll, were extremely supportive of the strike. So that's what I'm
Yeah.
talking about.
Mhm. What do you think of this latest deal that Netanyahu and Trump have come up with and proposed to Hamas? This ceasefire, 60-day ceasefire agreement. Hamas has pushed back on it a bit, but I mean, what do you think of this?
Well, just something about a point I wanted to make on the last question that I
Sure.
just don't want to leave out is the Epstein files are huge for a lot of Republicans, especially younger Republicans. They expected some giant kind of pedophile conspiracy to be exposed,
Right.
particularly among Democrats, and it was snuffed out. And Donald Trump has come out and said that he thinks that if the Epstein files, such as they are released, it could destroy a lot of lives. And the Democrats don't want to exploit this moment, which would be much more powerful than the Russiagate hoax in damaging Trump among his own base. They don't want to exploit this and say Trump is covering up his own involvement with Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah,
But
because
this,
they're involved.
they're involved
Because it's
because of the pro-Israel.
bipartisan.
Yes, and the pro-Israel component. But I think many Americans are just waking up to the sham of the two-party system, and
Yeah.
this whatever the truth behind the Epstein files is, it kind of crystallizes that they're all in it together and that it's all one big gang and they're not part of it. And
Yeah.
so I mean, there is a consciousness, but there's no vehicle right now for seizing it I would think, Zoran Mamdani would be a perfect way for him to troll Trump, but he has that glint of DSA liberal respectability in his eyes. He won't go there. And Chuck
Hmm.
Schumer obviously won't go there. On the 60-day ceasefire, uh, it's a 60-day ceasefire. Israel, the whole concept, Israel is, turned every concept that was central to conflict resolution and the so-called liberal rules-based order upside down. And one of them is ceasefire. Look at what they've done in Lebanon, 4,000 attacks on Lebanon. What they want is a permanent low-intensity war where they can continue to bomb anywhere in Gaza where they detect a so-called Hamas operative. And look at what they just did at this beachside cafe in Gaza. The son of a killed Hamas figure who had no connection to Hamas happened to be at this cafe. So they bombed the entire cafe with a 500-pound bomb and slaughtered over 30 people, athletes, artists, journalists. It was an internet upload hub for journalists. That's what they want to do in Gaza perpetually. So that's what the 60-day ceasefire means to them. And Hamas, the only leverage they have left is 10 more hostages and some bodies. So they're reluctant to give it up when they know what Israel is going to proceed to do. They want no Israeli presence in Gaza,
Yeah.
and Israel won't give it up. This is also an issue for Iran, but Iran still has some deterrence. Israel wants the Lebanon option in Iran, that Trump will grant them um, guidance systems for bunker busters so they can just keep attacking Iran. And it's why a lot of Iranians that I've talked to, and I see this online as well, actually thought that ending the war at 12 days was a mistake and that they should have kept hitting Israel until Israel made some serious concessions and felt
Yeah.
more severe pain.
Yeah, I mean, clearly, that's kind of my interpretation of the 60-day ceasefire as well. Is that this is just stalling? Israel's just stalling. They're going to continue their war. They don't have any intention of ending it, and that's exactly what Hamas countered with. Their requests focused on clear timelines, more clarity, rather than kind of these words that Israel had put into the agreement, which was, we'll kind of see. We'll see if we withdraw the troops. We'll see if we don't have to fire on you. And Hamas is saying, no, 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 this has got to be clear. And we want an actual guarantee from the United States that you're going to actually uphold your end of the bargain, which is not in the agreement. They want explicit guarantees, and they're not getting that in this agreement. I've just really, I have a pretty dismal viewpoint of how this all ends. I mean, I just don't see the Palestinians winning in this at all. I think Israel ultimately ethnically cleanses them all out of there sometime in our lifetime, Max, and that'll be it. I mean, I don't know how else this ends.
I don't want to foreclose a possibility of victory for Palestinians or predict their defeat. But Israel keeps achieving physical victories or military, what it calls military victories that are tactical at a great strategic loss. Israel has no clear endgame beyond the one you just laid out, which is total ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. And the political playing field has completely changed since October 7th. And I think what I've been trying to explain through my own work on Israel, Palestine, but particularly on the nature of Israel and the logic of Zionism and how destabilizing and dangerous it is. What I've been trying to say for over 15 years is now clear to billions of people around the world, but particularly to an entire generation of Americans. It's almost like I'm just still talking like I'm like this hologram. I'm basically superfluous. I don't even need to say anything anymore, but I keep doing it, maybe for my own sanity. But they get it, and that is going to play out to the point where I think if Israel is going to continue, and it will, on this path towards ethnic cleansing in order for it to preserve its ethno-supremacist character, democracy is going to have to be canceled across the West because people are just not going to vote for pro-Israel politicians anymore, no matter how bought off they are.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I hope that happens. I hope that we do see some wins for the Palestinians. I just think that from Netanyahu's viewpoint, it's almost like if you could get inside of that guy's head, which I don't think it's really difficult to figure out what's going on in there. In his mind, it's okay, the world will hate us for now. They might have these feelings, but they'll get over it once it's done. Once it's
Yeah, I
over
mean,
and there's nothing more to think about, then they'll get over it eventually.
well, I would say that, if you go back to the early history of Zionism, that's what Chaim Weizmann, who was the first president of Israel, believed about the Arabs and the Palestinians. Of course, he didn't see them as Palestinians. Um, and the original plan for Greater Israel, which you can actually see mapped out in the Israeli flag. There are two blue lines on the Israeli flag with the stolen symbol of my faith community in the middle. Those lines, it's supposed to make the flag look like a talit, like the Jewish prayer cloth, but they're also symbols of the Euphrates River and the Nile River. And that's the original plan for Greater Israel as spelled out by the Jewish National Fund's original charter, 1913, for a Jewish state. And native resistance against Zionism has confined Israel to the space that it's currently in. Israel's obviously trying to push into Syria. They'll try to push into Lebanon. I mean, I visited some Jewish holy sites in Iran going back to, the granddaughter of Jacob arriving in the region. I'm sure they would like to push to there as well, but they're going to have a hard time doing it. So they've already been limited, and they're being limited on the world stage. There is an epic battle taking place, a defining battle in our civilization, also a defining battle in the future of Judaism. Will Judaism be totally captured by this militant, fascist, satanic ideology? There are so many questions that still remain unanswered, but Zionism has not yet won, and it's been 100 years of domination, of violence, of embracing the Iron Wall ideology of Jabotinsky, and it still hasn't created its Iron Wall. Unfortunately, the scenario that we live under, thanks to this Zionist axis that spans from Tel Aviv to Washington, which Netanyahu has come to Washington to represent, means that this will ultimately be decided by force. It will be decided by political force. It'll be decided by the activist force that we see from groups like Palestine Action in London, which have been defined as a terrorist organization, though they have killed and injured no one and are fighting against genocide. And it will be decided by the force that we have seen from the axis of resistance in the region. But that's a scenario that we, the decent, peace-loving people of the world, did not choose. It was chosen for us by Zionism.
Max Blumenthal from the Grayzone, thank you so much for being here and sharing with us, your excellent reporting. And we do have the link down below to the latest piece of the footage exposing the ragtag U.S. mercenaries firing toward Gaza aid seekers, which, of course, people could check out all the rest of your great work on the Grayzone. We also have a link to your show. How often are you doing your show?
I'm doing it like once a week. That's all I can muster with all the reporting we were doing. We were going to probably do one in 2 hours, but after this interview, I don't know if I have any juice left.
Well,
so maybe I'll
reschedule
that for tomorrow.
Okay. Well, we do have a link down below for where people can catch that as well and get a lot of really awesome information, excellent information always from you, Max. So thank you so much for being here.
Thanks. I mean, subscribe to us on YouTube and Substack, and you'll find out about every live stream that's coming up. And thanks a lot, Kim.
Hey guys, thank you for watching this clip from the full Kim Iverson Show, which you could check out Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern at KimIversonShow.com. See you there.